Hello, and we are live. I'm just going to go ahead and wait here for a couple of minutes for folks to tune in. I see earlier today Ingrid S. came in and gave a round of applause. Says fashion only new member. Not sure if they joined an actual membership. And then saw Dean Plunging said, will you be answering any questions at the end? Yes, I will. Truther says, bro, you white people of West, take care of yourself. Seeing lots of videos of you guys getting attacked. This is what happens when you bring third world into your country. Well, I am not going to touch that one, but I will say that there is a concerted effort by George Soros, among other people, to flood various countries with refugees. So there's definitely truth to that. I see Look Within is joining us, saying yo, 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 with the cool guy sunglasses going on. And I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes, and then we're going to launch into it. And so I have a number of topics I'm going to go over today. We are in the mouth of the dragon. That's why I used that clip art again. Are you going to upload members only videos? There's none. Yes, I am. Fashion only. You're literally my first paid member on here, and so I haven't made content yet. But now that you have joined, I absolutely will. And shout out to you. I will be doing members only videos. What I'll probably do is have some mix of member only videos and videos early. I will tell you this. And I might do this as a members only video to begin with. I'm going to be interviewing, gosh, I'm scared to even say her name because I don't want this to somehow get shut down. I'm going to be interviewing a widow of someone who was super deep in the national security complex and was a whistleblower about 20-something years ago and got suicided. And they talk about something very interesting. It's interesting to me because I randomly, before this incarnation, so to speak, of being on this channel, I actually worked with this woman in, social work of all things. But let's just say, again, I don't want to, just on the off chance that she's being monitored, I really want to successfully do this interview without it getting shut down. Let's just say there'll be discussions of time travel, talk with aliens, deep underground military bases, and I will leave it at that because I don't want, I wouldn't be surprised if she was still being monitored, and I really want this interview to go off without a hitch. And so fashion only, I may be putting that up in advance. I don't think I'll make that a straight up members only video, but I'll be putting it up in advance. And Peter, I don't know if that's really Cosmos, probably not, since it's CS. It's probably in very difficult to pronounce Hungarian syllable, but Peter, greetings. If you want to throw up any comments in there, I'll give you guys a shout out. I'm just going to wait like another minute or two. We actually have a good amount of people here. Things I'm going to be going over today, just so people know. I'm going to be talking about how we're in the middle of this mouth of the dragon, which is between the solar eclipse, which happened in the evening of April 19th, and really the day of the solar eclipse, so to speak, was April 20th. And then I'm going to be talking about what's going on with the economy and how that fits into geopolitics. And then I'm going to talk about the way crypto is interfacing with that. And then the final section is going to be a little bit on the luciferians. This isn't my long mentioned, long delayed Luciferian episode, just stuff keeps coming up. And so, also coming up very soon, I'm going to be doing a series on the electric universe theory, if indeed I can get a hold of that guy. Probably about a month from now, I am going to have the gentleman who worked on the Yuga systems. He's having a book come out here shortly. Let me just look up what his name is. He's, you know, how I say the Yuga will end March of 2025. He doesn't specify March, but he specifies 2025. That's Bibu Deb Mizra. He has a book coming out. And so as soon as he's done with this book, I'm going to have an interview with him. Peter Champu, the Geomancer, is coming on the channel again here soon. And lots of stuff in the works. Also, Mary Allison. All right, well, it's been a few minutes to get rolling, so we're just gonna jump into it. I'm going to real quick say hi to a couple more people. Well, it looks like I've said hi to everybody who is in the chat. So I'm just going to jump right into it. So to start off, thank you so much to everybody. I am super, super grateful for each and every one of you viewers. If it's your first time on the channel, I think you're going to really enjoy the content here. Be sure you look around and check out all the incredible variation or variety rather, in terms of all the kinds of content this channel has. And I think you'll find stuff you like. So if you haven't already and you enjoy the content in here, just smash that like button and hit the subscribe. Even if you ignore it once you sub, it helps me in the algorithm. And so I am real quick just doing a little bit of house cleaning before we get into it. So I am offering I do it about 3 times per year. I'm offering angelic magic classes. The last one in the fall, which had all the special forces guys that I often talk about, was a banger. As Sam Tripoli would say, it was really amazing. People had life-changing experiences. Even family members had life-changing experience. And so I have 1 slot left for the East Coast class, and then I have the entire class open for the West Coast time. And so that is beginning May 4th, and it'll be about every other Thursday for 3 weeks, and then with a final class after that. And it's going to be really special. If you're interested, look into more information on my site, and you can learn how to do angelic magic. And it's a prerequisite if you want to work with the higher spheres with me down the road. I haven't offered that at all yet publicly, but that's something's coming. I want to give a Patreon shout out to Molite, Dan Whippy, Ryan Chandler, and my newest member, who is Fashion Only, who just joined today. And Fashion Only, I'm not going to assume whether it's a man or a woman, but Fashion Only just joined today via YouTube. And so that's something where you can go to the main page and hit join. And so I'm talking about all this business stuff up front because I don't actually earn any money, generally speaking, off this channel. That's in the process of changing. And so the more super chats I get, the more Patreons I get, that kind of stuff, the more I can dedicate myself to the content on this channel and less on my other businesses, such as astrology and so forth. And so go ahead and put your questions up in the sidebar, and then I will be answering them at the end. If you do a super chat, you'll be guaranteed to be first to have your question answered, and also certainty that your question does get answered, because last week I wasn't able to answer all the questions just because there were so many, and I did have to go pretty short. So just going to jump into it now. So we're in the mouth of the dragon, which is between the solar eclipse, which was April 19th and 20th, and then the lunar eclipse happens on May 5th. And so eclipses generally mean that the karmas are ripening rapidly and explosive events are likely to take place, sometimes literally. Unfortunately, I filmed last week's episode before I became aware that Elon Musk was launching the heavy booster SpaceX experimental rocket. Had I known it, I did say to my friends, and I guess you'll just have to take my word for this or not, but I did tell my friends that I thought that it may very well blow up on the launch pad. Well, it didn't blow up on the launch pad, but it did blow up in flight. And so that's the kind of thing that's very likely to happen. I think it's also symbolic, sort of as above, so below, of a lot of things that are sort of underway, like just big projects exploding and failing, and that just sort of that general arc, if you will, of that rocket going up, blowing up, and then coming down, I think is a little bit of a metaphor for sort of the recovery, the recovery of the economy since the banking crisis began. So that's where I'm going to go next, is into the economy. So the big news is that there's further de-dollarization everywhere you turn. The BRICS countries and many more are leaving the dollar wherever they can. And I'm going to pull up something that shows that. So let's see, how do you do it? I think it's this bad boy. Share screen, not now. Oops, that did not work. This is not intuitive, folks. I don't know. See, share screen. Now I have to select it. There we go. So you should be able to see that. It says BRICS, new development bank breaks away from US dollar. So what it is that BRICS is now their development bank, which is sort of like the IMF or World Bank. It's now offering loans in local currencies. Previously, it had only done loans in the dollar. And so this is just one of the death by 1,000 cuts things the BRICS are doing right now to get rid of the dollar domination, the dollar as the world reserve currency. This is all a sort of preamble to the rollout of CDBCs. But as I mentioned on this channel before, I don't think that CDBCs will be successful. I do think, of course, they're going to roll out and they will stick for some period of time, but I do not think that it's going to be a long-term thing that sticks around. In fact, I'm pretty positive that it'll fall away fairly quickly. And part of the reason it's going to fall away is there's increasing numbers of alternatives, but the hits just keep coming in terms of how things are going in the US. And, the angels told me there would be a crash around now, and it's looking like, yeah, that's looking real likely, because here we see the US sovereign credit risk. So that's basically, these are credit default swaps. So they're insurance saying that the US will not default on its debt. Now you'll notice this is the 2008 crash right here. You'll note that's double that. These other ones had to do with the European banking crisis, and I forget what it was here. There was a couple of other things that were basically non-effects from the things that were done back in 2008. But I mean, look at this. This is night and day. And so one of my viewers who likes to come on a lot once told me, hey, Ian, stay away from the economy. Yeah, that will not be happening. The economy is too important of a part of what's going on in the world for me to just ignore it, because it's not something that I have my degree in. I also think appeals to authority are not helpful, really. And also, if we went with appeals to authority, then we all would have gone along with the COVID scam, right? And all the other nonsense. Trust the experts. So yeah, I do not trust the experts. That doesn't mean I throw out the baby with the bathwater. I do look at what experts have to say, but I try and discern whether or not they perhaps have the same outlook and values as me, and whether they're compromised because of, for example, the peer review system being hijacked and people getting a lot of their funding for research and so forth from corporations. So they're not going to say anything negative about the hand that pays them. So another example of how the economic situation is going to continue to worsen, and something is going to give quite soon. You will see that this here shows that, yeah, the magnitude of losses and outflows is alarming. And so Credit Suisse hemorrhaged 69 billion in assets. A billion here, a billion there, people. So pretty soon you're talking about real money. So they had UBS buy out Credit Suisse, but Credit Suisse continues to just absolutely tank. This kind of stuff just can't happen. And so what's happening right now is all this stuff is collapsing behind the scenes, and they're not being honest about it, of course, because if they were honest about it, what would you do? You would go down to the bank, you would pull out your money, and that would effectively destroy $10 of lending ability by the bank, or maybe more, because there actually is no limit. It used to be 10 to 1. It used to be if you went in with the bank and you deposited $10, the bank could then loan out $100. Now it's infinite. There's a no reserve requirement anymore, which of course is total madness. But welcome to the clown show, because things are just going to continue along those lines. So as we look at the way that the economy is imploding, an interesting phenomenon is happening. Yeah, there's all the great reset stuff in the background, but as I say all the time in the show, that's never going to stick. That's going to fail. And I want to show this next slide about some of the things people are doing in response to this. And go ahead and throw your questions there on the side. It's wanting to do the wrong one, so come on. Sorry about this, folks. It's not, is it just, oh, there, it just said the wrong name. All right, so Texas is moving to create a gold-backed digital currency. And so Texas is going to, they have a bullion depository there in Texas. They're going to create a digital gold-backed currency. How about that? Remember, those who watch this channel for a while know that months ago, the angels told me in prophecy that we should be looking out for gold-backed digital currencies. And now they're popping up everywhere. There was that initial one in the UAE or Dubai or whatever a few months ago, which caught my attention. Russia and China are talking about a gold-backed currency so they can settle, basically so they can sell oil for gold, but do it with quick settlement through crypto. And believe it or not, even Zimbabwe, I don't know if I have that up, even Zimbabwe is going to be doing a gold-backed currency here soon. Not so sure the Zimbabwe one is really going to take off. You have to have trust before people are going to go along with it. But there are alternatives that are popping up. So Zimbabwe offered a gold-backed digital currency. Texas did a gold-backed digital currency. And then I'm really hopeful that I'll be able to do a share screen on this and it works. I'm going to give this a whirl here and see if this works. So please do let me know in the comments if you guys can hear this. Let me get it up. It's not up yet. All right. Okay, so here it is. This is Jim Willie of Golden Jackass fame, and he is talking about, oops, it is going to
XRP, and I'm going to fast forward.
Here we go.
Here in this clip.
Hopefully you guys can hear that. Can you guys hear this?
You know, saying the SEC putting Ripple through the ringer.
Ripple cannot be corralled. Ripple is about to move its headquarters.
Just real quick, Jim Willie was asked about Ripple and XRP. He was also talking about gold-backed currencies and how the BRIC countries are going to have commodity-backed currencies for sure. Just real quick, can anyone in the comments tell me if you can hear the sound in this video?
Out of the United States. Ripple has already cut deals.
It looks like you can see it. So I'm just going to go ahead and play it. And so he was just asked about Ripple XRP and whether it was going to go away. And mind you, I contend that Ripple XRP is a luciferian Trojan horse to basically sneak in there and take over the banking system from within. And I'll explain more why after you watch this clip, because Jim Willie, who's a legendary economics guy, I mean, he's kind of like, you know, he's like me. He would be derided by the mainstream, but he's very brilliant, and he's been right about a lot, even if he was a bit pessimistic in terms of the timeline. He thought a crash would come a lot sooner, and so did I. But it's imminent. All right, here we go.
Full of different BRICS major nations. By that I mean Russia, China, Iran. Those three countries are going to run the BRICS. They should really do something about Brazil and fix that. I'd love to see Russia, Chinese influence to fix that, but probably not going to happen anytime soon. Russia announced that in view of the SWIFT obstruction, they were going to temporarily use XRP. They're going to use it with all their former Soviet republics, probably on a creeping basis, Eastern Europe, probably on a certain basis with China and the Pacific Rim, but maybe mostly the yuan. Look for the yuan to have a handoff to the Chinese gold-backed digital currency. Look for Russia to use XRP and the UAE dirham as caretaker temporary payment systems. And I believe, and this is the opinion of a really smart digital colleague of mine, the Russians are going to use XRP to drive up the gold price and put a hot poker up the Anglo-American banker's arse. That's why I think XRP is going to go up. The Russians are backing it. There's a big boycott against the dollar. There's going to be alternatives. You know, this is going to sound a little outrageous and ironic, but I'm just going to say it. What we might find is that the Asian exporters
listen to this part.
Take their goods to ship them to Long Beach and other West Coast ports. They might demand XRP. During all the different battles and arguments and conflict over whose CBDC will rule, I think XRP is going to run through with a chariot and get a lot of the global trade. Okay,
did you hear what he just said? And notice the words that he used. He used a very specific word that if you understand tarot like I do, he said chariot. He said XRP Ripple is going to run through with a chariot and take over a bunch of the trades, specifically from the CDBCs. He even mentions that. So I went on record saying that about a month ago. I doubt Jim Willie watches his channel. I would love to believe that, but I'm sure he came up with it independently. He may have gone up some other site and said it earlier than me. I don't know. It's not actually a competition. I'm just saying I didn't view this video first when I said, I don't know, 3 weeks, a month ago, that you would see Ripple at the center, and then sort of like the coronavirus, you would see all the CDBCs around the edges. And just like the coronavirus eventually lost those spikes, like Luc Montagnier told us. I think it's in Shadow Wars 4 that I mentioned this, so go back and check that out. That's all going to fall away, because what will happen is there's going to be like a Korean businessman and a businessman in Brazil who don't have an interest in supporting NATO and the old guard, right? The BIS, the World Bank, all that kind of stuff. And they're going to do trade directly with one another using XRP or another direct peer-to-peer payment system. It could be something else. I think it's going to be XRP just because they're in there already, but they're going to use a direct peer-to-peer payment system. So what happens then? Those guys didn't have to change from the Korean won into the Brazilian digital currency and lose money and get taxed and have whatever kind of nonsense and friction, or what Adam Smith would have called a fetter, right? A fetter, a point of friction that slows money down. And instead, they're going to realize that they can just interact directly using a peer-to-peer payment system such as Ripple or something else, and that they're going to immediately gain more money out of the transaction, because A, it'll be faster, and B, it'll not have the cumbersome, multiple money changer middleman getting in there. So the minute that happens, that person is going to go, wow, I made extra money. And then they're going to use that extra money to make more money. And very quickly, people who do direct peer-to-peer payment systems without going through the IMF or the BIS or the old system, especially consider countries that are sick of the United States and the West in general manipulating things, they're going to be like, wow, let's just do this. Why would we go through a Western central bank system when we could just interact with each other directly? And that's what Jim Willie meant there in that clip by XRP is going to ride through like a chariot, which chariot in tarot is like massive sudden change, among other things. And I think that's why he used that term. And so, yeah, I think we're going to see that the CDBCs roll out but fail, because there's going to be popular resistance at the ground level, and there's going to be resistance among the, maybe not the Davos level of elite, maybe not the quadrillionaire, multi-trillionaire folks, but the people just a slice below that, possibly even including the Florentine Luciferian faction among the black nobility. So, I mean, there's big stuff afoot, people, and there's huge stuff going on behind the scenes. And that's a perfect segue, mentioning Luciferians, to talk about the Luciferians. So, Luciferians, how do you spot them? Well, one of the things that was brought to my attention, and viewer, she's a regular viewer from Australia, and I'm forgetting her name. My apologies. You know who you are. Gosh, I wish I could remember what her name is. Anyways, she pointed out to me that one of the qualities of Lucifer the deity is that Lucifer the deity causes what's called Luciferian confusion. What that means is that people can't really tell what Luciferians are doing. They have this natural kind of fog of war and confusion around them. The Malachians do not have this. And the thing is that Luciferian confusion causes both Malachians and people who are in resonance with the Most High to think that they're looking at a Malachian, when in fact they're looking at a Luciferian, and they get confused. And so think about it. Let's look at some Malachians everybody knows. Does anyone think Klaus Schwab is a good guy? No, of course not. Nobody does. I've never met anyone who thinks that. What about Augustine Carstens, that insanely corpulent, vile-looking toad at the Bank of International Settlements? No, nobody had never seen anyone defend Augustine Carstens. except for maybe some banker shill on some site, but I've never seen it. Christine Lagarde at the IMF. Anyone defending him? No. What about Bill Gates? Okay, so some NPC morons will defend Bill Gates. But does anyone who's true woke, meaning understanding how the world really works, like all of my viewers, does anyone in the truth movement think that Bill Gates is a good guy? I've never seen it. But I have seen people question whether the following people are good or bad or something else. Trump, Jamie Dimon, Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, right? Again, remember, not all these people themselves consider themselves to be in this Luciferian faction, but they vibrate at that level. Zuby is another one, that one weightlifter music artist guy. Hopefully he won't watch this, but because actually I know someone who knows him. But even you can say, even though I believe that his heart is with the Most High, I think Kanye or Ye is Luciferian in character. And so another person that I think may be a Luciferian, and the fact that I have doubts makes me think that he is Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan. Well, you might say, oh, he's so evil. He's so evil. Again, don't get confused and think that Luciferians can't do evil. They certainly can. And Luciferians have been working hand in glove with the Malachian power structure for millennia. So why do I think Jamie Dimon could be a Luciferian, but I don't know, which again makes me think he is a Luciferian, right? Because there's that fog of war, Luciferian confusion. Well, some people said a little while ago, oh, he said to seize land or whatever. Well, he said something that was kind of like a regurgitation of things that have been said in the past around eminent domain and so forth. But if you go and you read his actual quote from the actual JP Morgan member letter that he sent out, he doesn't say that we should definitely seize land. He says that some people are saying that that's a better way to do it. Now, he does pay lip service to the whole global warming thing, which I find alarming. But I'm not certain about him. What I find interesting is several months ago, he said nobody gives a shit about ESGs, right? And then what happened instantly after that? All of a sudden, JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon was mentioned in it, were being investigated for connections to Epstein, namely that Epstein had an account with them. Well, isn't that odd? Nobody cared about the fact that JP Morgan was banking for Jeffrey Epstein when he was convicted a decade ago, and it just kind of hung out there for like a decade. Do you find the Biden administration to be particularly interested in, I don't know, actual justice or cutting down on human trafficking? I mean, other than to maybe make sure that Hunter and his buddies are, have a lock on that. I may get a ding on YouTube for this, but I don't care. But do you see what I'm saying? Like, don't you find the timing of that odd? Jamie Dimon comes out this fall and says nobody gives a shit about ESG, and then next thing you know, he gets under investigation, and JP Morgan gets under investigation. And then after that, he said some stuff about, oh, maybe eminent domain is okay. But it was kind of like a milk toasty thing. So I'm still on the fence about Jamie Dimon. He's not someone that I feel 100% confidence that he's a Luciferian. And I've mentioned it before. People who are, in my opinion, definitely Luciferian in character are Trump, Musk, and Tucker Carlson, just to name a few right there. And you notice Tucker Carlson just got canned today at Fox. I'm surprised he's lasted as long as he had. And any doubt I had that Tucker Carlson was on our side is erased by him getting fired. I don't like what that means for mainstream media in this country, but there you go. So getting back to another Luciferian, Elon Musk, a couple of weeks ago, I saw these people just very triumphant, very black and white thinkers going, ha, it's proof now. Elon Musk has always been a bad guy. He's the same as all the Malachians, blah, 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 blah. They really don't like Elon Musk for whatever reason. Look, I'm not saying Elon Musk is some kind of hero, and I definitely don't trust him, but he's been saying and doing some good things. And, but what about the brain chip, Ian? Well, he did the brain chip for like a decade, and nothing happened. It never rolled out. And then I think he slow rolled that. And then this past December, suddenly Gates and Bezos are working on a brain chip. Musk then basically his mask has fallen off and he's revealed to be not part of the Malachian crew. And he suddenly comes out and starts insulting Davos and WEF. He then goes to the World Government Forum and says, hey, we need to do decentralization. Hey, we need to not be working ultra centralized stuff. That's not going to work. And he actually got scattered applause at what was a mostly, Malachian heavy group. And so this week, or last week rather, Elon Musk came out with more information on the Twitter files showing the government can directly read your direct messages, which I was assured by these people who super hate Musk and think he's, part of the Malachian faction, that he was done with the Twitter files, and then he's not done, and he's been talking about more and bringing more out. So, he's not a good guy, but he's also not the same as the Malachians. And another way I can prove it, because what's the ultimate way, the ultimate litmus test for Malachian versus Luciferian? Do they harm children in an Epstein fashion? Or do they work to try and put a stop to that, right? Like Trump famously did a lot of work to put a stop to that. And Musk, within 2 or 3 weeks of him taking over Twitter, the underage, I want to be careful about trigger words, the underage pornography that was rampant on Twitter was erased within 2 or 3 weeks. And human trafficking and child sex abuse prevention groups gave Musk props for that. And I mean, to me, that's, the proof's in the pudding at the end of the day. And again, I'm not a big fan of, any of these people I just talked about, in the sense of I don't vibe with them in terms of their ethics and morals or lack thereof, but they're very different in a fundamental way from the Malachians who've been running things for a long time. And so I am going to open it up now to Q&A. And if you are wanting your question answered right away and you feel generous, you can do a super chat, and then I promise I'll answer your question first. Other than that, if you want to put your questions in the chat there, I will get to them as fast as I can. All right, let's go back to the beginning. All right, so Fashion Only asked if I would upload members to the members only videos. Yes, I'm going to. Fashion Only, I said this earlier, but for other people who are joining, if you'd like to join, that's hugely helpful to me and the channel and my family. And I will be having members only videos, and I'm also going to put out videos including this, as far as I know, maybe world first, or at least she hasn't been interviewed in 20 years, the wife of a deep state whistleblower who got suicided and was involved in absolutely wackadoodle, crazy stuff. That will definitely be going up on the members only video to begin with. I'll leave it up there for a week, and so you get access to that a week sooner. I am going to be doing videos that are specific to the members only section, but I haven't started that yet. As Fashion Only, round of applause, you are my first YouTube member. So, and I will also be giving my Patreons access to that. I just will have to figure out how to do that. I'll probably just make it privately listed. All right, and then Peter said greetings from Hungary and said you pronounce it Chomush. So Peter Chomush, all right. Nice to see you, buddy. Look Within's on. He said just took the lady and daughter to the local zoo and out to eat. Was going to handle some things at the DMV, but they're closed, so it'll have to be tomorrow. Yeah, good old DMV. You know what a life hack for that is? Go to a local small town that has a DMV. It'll cut your wait time down by like at least 80%. So do you know who Waters Above is? I've heard about that. I'm pretty sure it's a YouTube channel or a BitChute channel, and I'm sure I've seen videos of theirs, and I've definitely heard the name before. Always an awesome show. I can tell Sam watches you regularly. You're talking about Sam Tripoli there. Gosh, I would love to hear from Sam again. I've been trying to get a hold of him, but to get back on the show, but haven't heard from him yet. So Sam, if you watch this, buddy, get me back on. Sam, I actually want to interview Sam about the importance of comedy in the truth movement and how incredibly, incredibly critical it is. Again, I talk about those 3 chalices, the virtues, right? There's the chalice of tears, the chalice of laughter, and the chalice of joy. And that chalice of laughter is so, so important to healing. And comedians really hold a very special role. And it's funny because that is that Luciferian energy, right? That trickster energy. Tucker Carlson, Musk, and Trump all have that trickster energy to them. That's one of the ways you can spot a Luciferian. So, Yuga Surfer, Ian, are you on Twitter? I wanted to share some good information with you. Any ways to contact you? Do you have a Telegram? I do. I'm the worst about being on all these different platforms, but I really need to fix that. Part of the problem I have right now is that this channel takes a lot of my time, especially in terms of research and like coordinating guests and all this kind of stuff. And I also have to support my family, of course. And so I'm really trying to give this channel more love in the hope that it starts generating more income through various ways. But right now it's a little bit difficult for me to be on all these different platforms. There probably is an application out there that lets you upload videos to multiple platforms all at the same time, and I just am not aware of it yet. If someone knows about that, put a comment in and tell me where I can do that. If I had something to just make it easier, like I don't know, 8 videos behind and uploading to BitChute. So yes, I'm on Twitter, but I don't have a real White Lotus presence on Twitter right now. I do have one technically on Telegram, although I've done really nothing on it. So it's at Archangel. Oh, actually, you know what? That has, I think, my personal phone. Well, my phone number's kind of out there, anyways. I will leave in the show notes a way to get a hold of me. You can also always contact me through the White Lotus of Light website and just send me any material that you think is relevant to the channel. Preferably more articles rather than videos. I used to always wonder why Dr. Joseph Farrell said no videos, and now I get it because people send me videos all the time, and I just don't have. It takes way too long to read a video. I can skim an article in like 2 or 3 minutes. If there is something in a video, you can send it to me. But if it's like you just want me to see a 5-minute slice of a 3-hour video on YouTube, if you could queue it up so that way it pops up with immediately to the information you want me to see. I don't mind watching a video for 5-6 minutes. I can't watch 3-hour videos. I just can't. And so, yeah. Peter Chamoosh again says, I wish I was in that situation to be able to super chat or Patreon you. Unfortunately, I can't right now, but I hope you don't mind if I ask some questions about Scythians and Templars. Of course you can ask questions, and I answer questions for free on here all the time. I just, if people want to send me a super chat, helps me justify all the time I spend on the channel. So let's see here. Truther says, just to clarify your confusion from previous episode, Kalki is the last and 10th avatar of Vishnu. Rama was 7th and Krishna was 8th. Okay. Interesting. So I wonder who the 9th was. I know who Kalki is. Yeah, Kalki runs down the sword or on the horse with the flaming sword and beheads all the evil kings. Yeah, I know who Kalki is. I'm not confused about Kalki. What I'm not certain about is Kalki something that is a literal thing, as in will literally this Hindu god literally, right? Not millennial literally, but Gen X and prior literally, meaning the thing that's actually happening. That's what literally means. I don't know if literally a blue-skinned dude on a horse is going to fly down and chop off heads with a flaming sword. I imagine that literally that will not happen. Will that figuratively happen? Will, for example, perhaps India, as a rising global power, somehow take out all these evil kings, right? That's one way that could metaphorically occur. Will there be an actual avatar, like straight up Avatar, the Last Airbender, like this demigod or actual god who's able to perform miracles, like walk upon the earth? It is possible as we move into the Dwapara Yuga, simply because it seems that magic and psychic phenomenon are going to have a massive, massive increase, and that it may be that certain things have a much more physical impact than they have during the past 6,000 years. That does seem possible. That's one of those things where I wonder about it the same way I wonder about, a lot of people talk about this bifurcation of timelines. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean that, you'll have two parallel societies that exist on Earth together? Does that mean that we'll vibrate at such different frequencies that we're no longer able to interact with one another? I'm not sure. I do know right now I already feel like there's people who live in a completely different reality from me, even though I can see them and talk to them, although my ability to communicate with them gets worse and worse every day, which does lend itself to that theory that we'll literally vibrate away from one another in this bifurcation that's happening in humanity. So I don't know, when you start getting into things like that, obviously I'm very open-minded and believe in all manner of esoteric and magical things. I'm a practicing magician. I have magic absolutely work for me all the time. But that doesn't mean that I can say some words and cast a fireball, right? It's not Harry Potter style magic. It's you speak into existence and the universe changes. So something that's already a high likelihood can happen, right? It's not that suddenly you'll speak some words and then a bunch of gold will fall out of the air. I'm not saying that's not possible. I'm saying that's not the kind of magic that I do. I know there's rumors that Babaji or whatever is able to do that kind of material manifestation. There may be people who are on the Tibetan plateau who are able to do that kind of stuff hidden someplace in a monastery. I'm totally open to that kind of stuff existing. I don't have direct experience with that kind of magic or psychic phenomena. I did have time stop one time, but that's a story for another time. That had to do with when I was training with that Siberian shaman I talk about sometimes. All right. Today I read that 19 new countries requested BRICS membership, Peter says. Yeah. And BRICS is just growing and growing and growing. In fact, BRICS even invited the United States to join BRICS years ago, and the United States said no. So John Sand, Ian, would you bother shorting the market? Are any brokerage firms safe from a liquidity crisis? Thank you for all you do. Oh gosh, real quick, I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing I say can be held against me, blah, blah, blah. I'm not liable for anything. No, I wouldn't short because shorting is too risky. It requires perfect timing. There's not a lot of shorts out there that aren't some sort of synthetic short that then has decay or whatever you call it. So I wouldn't short. Rather than short, buy something that will do well in an economic crash. Again, not economic advice, but once you have taken care of food, water, medicine, making sure you have that, preferably a year for you and everyone in your family, and you have the means to defend yourself. I had someone go off the deep end on me the other day that I dared to say that someone might want to buy stuff beyond the things I just mentioned. But once you have all those needs of life thing taken care of for your family, then you want to, consider things you can do to thrive in what's happening. One of the things that occurred to me the other day, and props to this female astrologer I know. She doesn't want to be named, so I won't name her. But she said to me a while back, are you sure that all this stuff of, I was sort of blackpilling myself at the time to some degree. I often talk about don't blackpill, right? I wasn't really blackpilling, but I was being very kind of I don't know, in the bunker mentality, wanting to get more food and blah, blah. And she said to me, well, has it ever occurred to you that maybe people are trying to shake you out of the markets and get you to not try and be involved in the markets, and therefore you automatically lose because you're left behind? Something to that effect, she said. And it dawned on me the other day that both the Luciferians and Malachians would love for all of us most high people, or really all people, to not be involved in this incredible transfer of wealth that's about to take place, because then they get to keep it all for themselves. Whereas I'm of the opinion that those of us who resonate with the Most High ought to be trying to figure out, how can I not just survive the current circumstances, but how can I thrive? I think gold and silver, again, not financial advice, but what am I doing? I think having gold and silver is extremely wise. In any hyperinflationary environment, it's certain to skyrocket. There are also select cryptos that I think are well worth owning. I think that they're the ISO 222 cryptos. And then I will say, I personally do not own any ETH, any Ethereum. I don't own any Bitcoin. And I don't own any Litecoin. That said, those three are the most likely to survive, along with the ISO 222 coins. Obviously, or maybe it's not obvious, but I do have XRP and XLM, and I think both of those are going to be used in payment systems in the coming months and years, and I think those are going to go up quite a lot. I do think that people, should really be looking into the blockchain technologies. Am I aware that blockchain is being used to create CDBCs and some of these other tyrannical things? Yes, but guns were used in the Revolutionary War, and guns were used to put down peasant revolts. Guns were used in the Revolutionary War, and guns were used by Mao Zedong to kill political opponents. Why am I bringing up guns? Well, it's a technology, right? The printing press was used to help spread truth and literacy to the working class. The printing press was also used by Joseph Goebbels and the Nazis, and also used by the USSR to create horrible propaganda. So I used to be kind of more of a Luddite, and now I'm feeling like that's a mistake, and that the correct answer is to figure out how to help society to harness these incredibly disruptive and massively telescoping evolutionary technologies we have, like blockchain and artificial intelligence, which I'm going to do a whole episode on that, and instead try and move things in a more positive direction and try and lean into these things that are already occurring and take them in a more positive direction. If we don't, the technology is going to continue, and who's going to have their hands on the levers of all the wealth and all the technology? The Luciferians, if we're lucky, and maybe some of the Malachians if we're not so lucky. I'd like to see more Most High people in there becoming, high net worth individuals and families to be able to take that money and then teach other people how to fish, right? Help improve the world through projects and so forth. You really need money. So I plan to become wealthy during this period of time of this massive economic shift and wealth transfer. And I recommend that other people do the same. I am not a financial advisor in the sense of to be held legally accountable, but I'm also not. There's people out there who are better than I am at that. That said, that's what I'm going with. I took care of all my family's needs first, and then my investments are basically the optimistic investments, and the ones with the highest upside are the ISO 222 coins. And then I'm also, have gold and silver, which are sort of anti-hyperinflation disaster type hedges. So are any brokerage firms safe from a liquidity crisis? I mean, maybe some, but I don't know who they are. Thank you for all you do. Well, thank you, John. All right. And Paula Hawk says, go Texas. Hey, Paula, how's it going? Peter Chamus says, in Arkansas, gold and silver is now legal tender, supposedly. Yeah, that sounds right. Fly Over Me said, Jim is the man. Look Within said, yes. Shanjak. Hey, Shanjak, how's it going? Says, hello, world. What are some trusted XRP exchanges? Not financial advice. Thank you. Yes, not financial advice. Uphold has never gotten rid of XRP, and it's, I believe, an American-based exchange. There's another one that's kind of like more rinky-dink named Trade Ogre. There's one called KuCoin. There's a number of them that are external to U.S. U.S. citizens. It's under cloud right now with the SEC case against Ripple. So those are some exchanges. So Anarchy Gaming. The Order of the Teutonic Knights are a sub-faction of the Knights Templar that is still in existence today. Ian, they may be directly linked to Babylon and the Order of Sacrament Illumination. The Order of Sacrament Illumination, I've not heard of that specific thing. Yeah, so Teutonic Knights were kind of a sub-faction of the Knights Templar. I guess that's reasonable to say. What's interesting about the Teutonic Knights, in my opinion, and the most interesting thing about them is if you go back and you look at that interview I did with Walter Bosley on how UFOs, at least some percentage of them, are humans driving ultra tech, as I call it, vehicles, the clandestine space program. He traces the Teutonic Knights all the way back to the Fourth Crusade and believes that that's where the Nazi Bell, the Die Glocke UFO is from, that it's recovered Atlantean or perhaps Empire of Rama, and maybe that's the same thing, technology that the Teutonic Knights vouchsafed until the technology was able to be developed in the 1800s and then in World War II. Anarchy Gaming, can you give me any information you may have on this? Well, I just did. I don't have a lot of information on the Teutonic Knights, and so I can't really answer better than what I just did. Okay, so Similar Prisoners writes, oh yeah, I can put it up on the screen. Sorry, guys. Geez, I should have been doing this whole time. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this. Do you know anything about Carlisle Pushong, author of Crystal Magic, Rune Magic, and the Tarot of the Magi? He's one of the few occult authors that there's nearly no info about online. I am not familiar with that person. I may have a copy of that Crystal Magic book or had it at one point in time. I am not familiar with Carlisle Pushong other than I've seen Crystal Magic before as a book. All right, Peter says, in one of your videos you mentioned Scythians are huge. What do you know about them? Did you know that Hungarians are descendants of Han/Scythians? I did not know that last little piece, although it doesn't surprise me. A huge amount of Northern Europeans and then also Central Europeans and like kind of, I don't know, Russian language group people are of direct Scythian descent. I knew that the Hungarians were at least in part, I want to say, Attila the Hun's army, kind of like when they marched all the way to Rome. I think it was Attila marched all the way to Rome and sort of sacked it a little bit. And then like a bunch of his army just set up shop there in Hungary, because I know that Magyar, or however you say your language, is directly related to the language there in not Tibet, but Mongolian. So that is definitely very interesting and fascinating. As far as the Scythians, I recommend the channel to everyone. I don't agree with all of his conclusions. He seems to be stuck on the whole firewall, it's the Jews thing, which I think is just really beneath him. But I really like Asha Logos' channel. He's phenomenal, fantastic historian. He talks about the Scythians at length. It seems to me that Scythians are Atlanteans. It seems to me that Vedic astrology is actually Scythian in nature, because northern India was conquered by the Scythians a long time ago, and that's part of the whole Indo-Aryan language group and cultural group. And it seems to me that the Scythians were Atlantean refugees who kind of set up shop there near the Caucasus Mountains around 13,000-ish years ago. So, 11,000 BC or thereabouts. And they were hyper advanced. And yeah, I really recommend that you look up Asha Logos and his channel. Just keep in mind that he, for whatever reason, like so many, is stuck on the firewall of it's the Jews rather than the correct answer, which is that is the Venetian black nobility, which is to say they're Tyrian and Babylonian people, which really have nothing to do with the Jews. Part of the confusion that also comes in with the Rodenites, who are not Jewish, they're Babylonian. Rachel, holy smokes. This is one of my earliest astrology clients from a couple years ago. Hey, Rachel, I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I haven't seen you in forever. Hope you're okay. Yeah. So then Truther writes, my yoga master says Kalki is a man. All Vishnu avatars are 13-strand DNA superhumans. India is a slave nation just like others. I'd say spiritually they're better than just about anywhere on earth. And spiritual is actually the most important thing in my opinion. So I mean, is the government of India captured like most governments by the Malakian system? Well, yeah. I don't think India is any worse than anywhere else, just like others. Kalki is a one-man show. He will free this world from this evil tyranny. I mean, that would be great. I would love for that to happen. I would be ecstatic for that to happen. I just wonder if that isn't more of a metaphorical thing that people are misunderstanding. If Kalki comes down on a horse flying around and beheads all the evil dudes of the world, I will be ecstatic to be wrong that it was a literal rather than mythological statement. Okay. And if anyone else has questions, now's a great time to answer or ask them because I'm getting close to caught up here. So Peter Chamu says, John Sand, in the crypto, the basic rule is not your private keys, not your crypto. Yes, absolutely. Make sure you have your private keys, folks, and don't share them with anyone and memorize them. So it's more important where you keep it, not where you buy it. Well, Peter, the thing is that you in Hungary can get XRP anytime you want. It's quite challenging here in the US because of the SEC case. That's why John asked that question. That said, you're absolutely correct. If you are going to buy crypto, get it off the exchange if you can, same day. Like make your transaction on the exchange and get it off the exchange. Oh, but I want to stake all this stuff. Well, you can do a lot of staking out of these hardware cold wallets. But like staking is, whatever percent interest. But if you lose it all because the exchange collapses like FTX did, and mind you that the government's actively trying to crush exchanges right now. If you have it on the exchange, it's not really your property until you get it onto a cold storage wallet and you have the keys, as Peter says here. And hardware wallets like Ledger or Trezor is absolutely correct. That is the only way to go if you're going to do crypto. You got to get it off those exchanges. All right, Truther says, Ian, please research on pineal gland and 12, 13 strand DNA. Humans can upgrade up to 12 strand DNA. Only Vishnu. Well, I mean, I'm obviously familiar with the pineal gland and have lived most of my life where there's not fluoridated water, actually. So that's lucky for me. So my pineal gland isn't all calcified the way most people in the U.S. is. I just got lucky. So Peter, or maybe the angels have me incarnate here. I don't know. Peter Chamo says, Magyar, mag means seed. We also refer to ourselves as people of the seed. Huh, cool. All right, and then, that's a copy of the one before it. Oh, love you too, Rachel. Take care. Good to hear from you. Hope you're safe and doing well. Yeah. All right. Peter then says, more from the island of Mu than Atlantean. There are also rumors that we are from Sirius and came to seed the Earth. Interesting. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm open to all that sort of stuff. When I was in Guatemala, this blew my mind. This was like 2004, so almost 20 years ago now. It was about 19 years ago this time of year. I was in Guatemala at Tikal, and I was kind of listening in on one of those guided tours that I did not want to pay for, right? But I was curious what he was saying. And he said something to the effect of, this Stella says, I am 13 smoking mirror jaguar claw. And I am, my father was so-and-so, and sort of like a lineage thing to begin with. And he says, and us Mayan people are special chosen people, and never forget that our people originally came from the Pleiades. And I was like, what did you say? And he just said it like super casual, like it was no big deal. And nowadays you might be like, oh yeah, it's on Gaia TV. 19 years ago, that was a real head on the swivel moment to hear a Mayan guide say that the Stella said that the Mayan people, or royalty at least, came from the Pleiades. That was a bit of a mind blower. All right, let's see what Rachel says. Rachel says, your astrology reading has been spot on, moving closer to my destiny. Oh, so glad to hear it. Yeah, if anyone else has any questions for me, I would love to answer them at this time. Just a reminder for people who are coming in late, if you've had any interest in learning angelic magic from me, there's a link below the video that you can click in and go to consultations on my webpage. And just if you scroll down, you can pick the West Coast or East Coast times. There's only one slot left in the East Coast time zone, and there's 5 left in the West Coast time zone. And so if people don't have any more questions for me, I might just, let's see, what else did I want to talk about and share with you folks? I think I've said a little bit about the upcoming, if you have questions, please do pop them over there on the side. You can ask about anything, VBN, all that kind of stuff. Although I am possibly going to start moving away. I'll still mention them and so forth, but I'm going to start moving away from sort of the focus the channel had for a while there in the Venetian Black Nobility. There's a variety of reasons for it. I think I'm going to sort of pass the torch on that to Philip. and you know, he'll have it on his channel. We'll see. It's just I've done my part in that, and at this point, like, continuing to talk about it just doesn't really help anything, and could actually. Someone left a very disturbing comment on my wall about how Santos Bonacci had a home invasion because he kept talking about the BBN. This is like a decade ago, and that's why he suddenly became a flat earther. If you suddenly see me talking about flat earth, you can know that someone has a gun to my head, or someone put a lot of money in my bank account and probably also put a gun to my head. I will not be supporting that unless indeed that would be you would know something horrible had happened to me. Because I do not believe that. Hence the globe behind me. Whoops, there it is. Yeah, because that's the general shape. I think it's a tube torus, and there might be hollow Earth might have some legs, but flat Earth, no. As an astrologer, it's laughable to me. I don't mind if you believe it, but don't ever bother trying to convince me of that. You never will. I've read a ton about it. It's a Tavistock psyops to discredit the truth movement. Just period. That's it. Okay, so Yoga Surfer says, second coming of Jesus equals arrival of Kalki, army of Imam Mehdi. All religions point towards a Messiah. I think Truther has a point. Yeah, you know, they all do point to a Messiah, but then is that because that a lot of those religions, I'm not saying about Kalki, but more so the Western religions, is it possible that that's some kind of mental trap? That it's to create a slave mentality to wait for someone else to rescue you, disempowering theology. That's kind of my opinion on that. That said, man, if Kalki comes in and kicks ass, I'm going to be, holding my hand up to get a high five as Kalki flies by. I mean, I have nothing but respect, and it's funny because my spiritual journey actually started to some degree with a conversation about Kalki with a Religions of India teacher, and talking about the Bhagavad Gita. And so, obviously I do Jyotish. I'm very, 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 have the utmost respect for Vedic culture, and for things like Advaita Vedanta is really close to my heart. That said, if a Messiah is coming, we got nothing to worry about. Conversely, if no Messiah is coming, we better get off our ass. So if the Messiah is coming, it doesn't matter whether we prepare or not. Conversely, if the Messiah is not coming, then we really need to prepare. Therefore, you probably want to prepare as though there is no one coming to rescue you. And then if someone comes to rescue you, then huzzah, right? Because if you don't prepare and think you can just sit around and just have a backlog of popcorn to cook up the popcorn and someone's going to rescue you, and then nobody comes, well, you got the popcorn, but that may not be a good way to sustain your family, right? Conversely, if you're super prepped up and then, an avatar comes down and rescues everyone, hey, no harm done, right? Just some more food for a block party to have. So prepare, start making connections in your community, start doing common sense things to protect your finances with the coming hyperinflation, and to protect your family with food, water, medicine, and a means to protect yourself. And then if a messianic figure like Kalki or the second coming of Jesus or whatever comes along and vanquishes the wicked, then awesome. But if you're wrong about that and you didn't prepare and things get difficult for a while, you could find yourself in a very bad position. That's kind of my take on that, with no disrespect meant to anyone's religious beliefs. So Peter says, I found your channel looking for Timothy Hogan interviews. I was happy to learn that you're also part of Templar Collegiate. Yeah, this baffles people sometimes. Here, go ahead. Here's a moment where a certain amount of people will go and pearl clutch. I am a Knights Templar. I am not a Freemason. I'm not a Freemason. My family is Masonic going back a few generations, at least to my great-grandfather. For whatever reason, my father didn't push me towards becoming a Mason. I found out as an adult that he was a Mason, which was a bit funny because I was super black-pilled conspiracy theory in the early 2000s. I found out, as I often talk about this channel, I found out a huge amount of what I know and share on this channel now 20-something years ago. And I was sitting there and I was having dinner with my dad, and I said, yeah, did you know that all Freemasons, or that all presidents were either Freemasons or Freemason, honorary Freemasons or whatever? And my dad was like, yeah, so. And I said, well, they want to create like a one world government, blah, blah, you know. And my dad goes, oh, that's nonsense. Of course, then he would later go on to say that indeed that's exactly what they're doing, but in different words. But anyways, he goes, oh, that's poppycock. And I go, oh, no, it's quite real, Dad, blah, blah, the Masons, and was freaking out about the Masons. And my dad goes, well, Ian, I'm a Mason. And I immediately was like, no, that's not possible. No, like Luke Skywalker style. As I discovered that Darth Vader was my father kind of thing. It was a real mind blower. And that made me reevaluate Masons in my mind to a huge degree to find out that my family is so involved in them. And my experience with Freemasons is they tend to be smarter than the average person, not always, but very often. And a real mixed bag. I've met some real douchebags who happen to be Masons. And some of the very finest people I've ever met in my life that I would stake my life on were also Freemasons. Templar Collegiate, that I'm a member of, is a little bit different. Almost everybody in that I really like. And there's a few people that I just, our personalities rub each other wrong or whatever. I've never been asked for dues. I mean, I had to pay for like shipping for a book. I've never been asked for dues, never been asked to do any favors, never been asked to do anything. There's certain things I've been told I can't talk about that have been revealed to me by Grandmaster Hogan, among others. But I have never felt anything even slightly sketchy. And if I did, then I would leave. Not if it was just slightly sketchy, I would investigate. But, if I found out that there was something wrong in it, then I would leave. That's just it. And I haven't had anything negative. And Timothy Hogan in particular, I find to be an exemplar of what a gentleman of the highest order and a gentleman and a scholar in every sense of the word. I often call him the walking Library of Alexandria. Absolutely phenomenal human being. Love Tim Hogan. Great man. Honored to know him. All right. So Peter, and I may have to be starting to do some other folks' questions since you've asked so many, Peter, and then get back to yours. This is the last one I'll do for you for now. Do you know anyone in Hungary that is Templar Collegiate member? Does Timothy know? Does he know where it's located? What's located here? And then you give me a grid. Tim Hogan, he's very busy. He comes on my Facebook page sometimes and likes my stuff. I text with him once in a while. He's incredibly busy. He makes me look like I just have a wide open itinerary, which I do not. And so he does not come on here. But if you can ask all this, just apply if you're interested in learning, and there's lots of esoteric stuff they teach. It's mostly about integrating your shadow and just becoming a better human being, really, at least as far as I've gotten. The best would be to just go to the Templar Collegiate webpage or Facebook page and ask to join. And then Tim Hogan could answer your questions directly. He knows all kinds of stuff, though. That dude has seen and been in some very strange places and very, very cool, interesting human being for sure. Yoga Surfer, where do these black nobility freaks live? Well, they live all over the place, but especially in Europe. Primarily, it seems in Belgium and northern Italy, and then some places in Germany and France. I mean, just kind of scattered throughout Europe. Some of the lower tier folks are in, like the junior JV black nobility folks are in the U.S., but there's lots of information out there on them, or at least there's more and more emerging information. Gosh, I'm trying to think of what that really great web page is that they have everything. Gosh, I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'll link to it in one of my shows, but there's a person who is leaking like current members and where they are. And I just decided that I'm going to stay away from that. I've said enough, and if people want to go into it deeper, then they can. And like I said, I'm going to be talking about the Malakians, but I'm going to kind of move away from talking about specific families and bloodlines. There's just it's not super helpful. It just lends itself to that demonization and split. It gives them power in a lot of ways that helps them in their machinations, and it also potentially endangers my family. And that's not something that's not a road I want to go down. And so you know, I'm not going to shy away from it completely, but I'm just not going to make it the focus of the channel anymore, based on a rather terrifying comment that somebody left. And so I took that to heart, and yeah, talking to my family about it, they were like, yeah, you need to not do that anymore. And I'm like, okay. So I put out enough at this point, and I'm not taking it down, but I put out enough for people to get on the trail, and I'm probably safe. Like their hands are very full fighting each other in the internecine conflict, but I'm not interested in pulling on that tiger's tail any more than I already have. All right, similar prisoners. Are there any texts on a Messiah figure that never realized what deity they're the human avatar for and the repercussions? It's funny you should ask that, because there's a book. Let's see if I can easily find it. I can. Aha. I think it's in this book. It might be in his other book, The Secret History of the World by Mark Booth. He talks about avatar incarnations, specifically planetary god avatars, meaning like a Mars avatar, a Saturn avatar, Jupiter avatar. And he says that generally speaking, what you see is people are seized by a specific planetary avatar, and which this lines up with the Vedic concept of their word for planets are grahas, or literally that means Caesar, as in to seize something. And they say that the planet sees you and force you to do certain things, kind of based on your chart. So he says that generally speaking, what you see with historical figures like Joan of Arc, who probably was a temporary Mars avatar, is that they're a temporary avatar to where, as an adult, that planet acts through them, right? Like Hitler was a Mars avatar, Stalin was a Saturn avatar, possibly Mao Zedong, because he killed so many, was a Saturn avatar. But born avatars, to where they're born as a planetary avatar, are exceedingly rare. And for example, Yeshua, it seems, was a solar avatar. It may be that Muhammad was either a temporary lunar avatar or was a lunar avatar from birth. And the angel of the moon was the one that worked with him, Archangel of the Moon. So Gabriel, I believe. I'm suddenly blanking, and so don't quote me on that. But so Mark Booth says in this book, or it might be his other book, which, let's see, what's his other book called? Boy, he wrote a lot of stuff. Darn it. Well, I don't know what the name of the other book was. But yeah, Secret History of the World. I think it's in this one. He talks about how there's going to be a from birth Saturn avatar that's born, and that's more or less equivalent to the idea of the Antichrist, that this person would probably be a young man who's a teenager or in his 20s in the Mideast, and he'll have all kinds of, I know I said they wouldn't earlier, I'm just saying what this guy says, not what I necessarily believe, but supposedly he would have magical abilities, and then he would have a near-death experience and then realize who and what he was, and then he would show all kinds of miracles, but claim that it was done because of science, but actually it would be magic. And that, you know, this figure would basically be very similar to the Antichrist in the book of Revelations. All right. So, yeah. So Peter, I'm going to skip your questions for a bit until I come back and get some other folks. So, Sardine Plunging, thoughts on reincarnation and karma? Yeah, I'm of the personal opinion, and I feel that I have direct experience that points extremely strongly to that reincarnation for me is 100% certainty. I don't have any doubt about it. I think karma is perhaps the single most important law in the universe. It seems to be what keeps things spinning in many ways, very similar to it's the law of cause and effect, really. The same way gender keeps the universe going, having polarities, male and female. It's just part of the functioning of the universe. Karma, it seems, and karma usually takes place over a long period of time, but it can happen. So-called instant karma can happen, and if that happens, that individual is lucky because then they can at least more easily learn from the lesson, but karma generally plays out over the course of many, many, many lifetimes. An interesting thing to note is I've been told by the spirits, by the angels and so forth, that one of the hallmarks of the end of Kali Yuga is that it is a great, it's a great accounting for karmas that have been accumulated since the fall of the Golden Age, but especially during the Kali Yugas, in which most of the karma of the past 13,000 year cycle has accumulated, has been during the Kali Yugas, because as you drop further and further and further in consciousness, actions tend to have more and more karmic consequence as ignorance increases and people do stuff that they would have never done in a golden age in the iron ages of the Kali Yugas. And so we actually collectively have all this karma coming due, and we're going to actually have a karmic reset, a greatest reset. And what that means is that a great many people are going to have, well, the way it works on the macrocosm is all the dislocations we're seeing and all this scrambling among elites and just all the instability and chaos and crazy events that are happening. That's how it plays out in the macro. How it plays out in the micro is you probably have noticed the past, especially 3 years, that you keep bumping into people who you have a really strong visceral reaction to them for no reason, or they have a really strong visceral reaction to you, again, for no reason. And that tends to be either someone really dislikes you for no reason whatsoever, or vice versa, or someone really loves you, again, for no discernible reason. I've had it happen constantly the past 3 years that I meet people to where one of those two things is very common. I've met especially a lot of people that I love them right away and they love me right away, and we just feel like we've been friends forever and we've just met. And so a lot of karmas are ripening right now, and a lot of fated relationships are coming together. And I don't just mean like sexual romantic, far more often it's in the form of actually friendships, but fated relationships where people in communities and groups are coming together because they have to, because we're being called in to work out karmas. And, you know, a lot of times with these people that we really love, it's actually that they or we harmed each other in a previous life. And now there has to be that love to sort of balance out that karma. And to me, karma is about when you sinned, not meaning you did something naughty, but meaning you missed the mark. You didn't learn a soul's lesson. Then that soul's lesson will come back to you in spiral form. It'll seem similar. You're not going in a circle, you're going in a spiral. So a similar thing will come up again to give you another chance to work through that karma. So those are like kind of, that's worthy of an entire show, and I may do that at some point. So let's go to Ryan. Hey, what's up, Ryan? Ryan is one of my Patreon patrons. So shout out to Ryan. I give you a shout out at the beginning, by the way, brother, in case you missed it. You go, have you ever watched Ben Davidson at Suspicious Observers channel? Yeah, I have thought about that. Earth catastrophe, cycles, magnetic poles. Hey, I'm so glad you brought that up, Ryan. There is a guy that I'm trying to work with. He's very, very knowledgeable. I don't know, I've had some sort of wire crossed with him or whatever. We haven't really been able to connect, but I'm going to do an entire series with that gentleman if we're able to collaborate correctly. We've had some kind of struggle there for some reason, but if I'm able to collaborate with him, we're going to do an entire series on the electric universe theory, which to me, I think electric universe is correct. And I think that Einsteinian physics is wrong. And I think most quantum physics is wrong, although some of that has some value, but it seems Einstein really led us off the correct path and towards mathematics-based physics instead of experimental observation-based physics, which was increasingly leading us towards electromagnetism was kind of the only game in town, and that actually electricity is linked to gravity, and that's where you get electrogravitics, and that's where you get flying saucers, basically, right? UFOs. It's because of electrogravitic effects. So that relates directly to the Earth catastrophe cycles and magnetic poles. I'm kind of torn on the Randall Carlson, Graham Hancock, cometary fragments thing versus the Wall Thornhill, Thunderbolts Project, Electric Universe Theory, the sun discharges micronovas that do all kinds of stuff. But I'm going to be exploring that whole thing with this guy who actually was a viewer, and we became Facebook friends, and then we talked a bunch, and I realized he was super knowledgeable about this, and I've been wanting to do a show. And I found out Wal Thornhill, may he rest in peace, unfortunately passed away this year, and so I couldn't interview the OG of electric universe theory. And so this gentleman is very knowledgeable, and so hopefully I'll be able to work with him, and we'll definitely get into the Earth catastrophe cycles and magnetic pole shifts. So is it expensive to be part of the Templar Collegiate? No, it's totally free. As far as I know, I don't recall. We might have paid like some very modest sum, and I think it was like only if you wanted to. They sometimes say, hey, do you want to be involved in some fundraising thing, or do you want to buy Templar Collegiate loot or whatever? But yeah, you're welcome, Peter. A random guy says, when will the final battle happen between good and evil, dude? Do you expect something like this? I'm literally fed up of all this evil. Yeah, brother, I feel you on that. Do I think that there's going to be a single climactic battle between good and evil? Not between good and evil, but between the Luciferians and Malachians, yes. And with Most High people maybe swinging the balance in favor of the Luciferians. Do I think it's going to be like on a battlefield, or will be that straightforward? I think the closest that would come is if they do pull the lever on the faked alien invasion, then it would look very much like a battle, because the Luciferians will use that high technology to go wipe out the Malachians. At least that's my working theory, and some gnosis from the angels along those lines, that is a possibility, that is a timeline that is quite possible. Yeah, if you're fed up, the good news is you won't have to wait too long. In the next 2 years, the proverbial shit is going to hit the fan, guaranteed. And we're in the window now. The minute the banks started collapsing in March, that was the temporal marker, according to the angels, that we are now no longer in the eye of the storm. We're now back in the storm again. And so if you're tired of things dragging on, believe me, I get it. And I sympathize with it. I've been aware of a lot of this stuff for 22 years. So I'm super duper ultra giga mega sick of the grind. But the funny thing is I'm more hopeful and happy than I've been the entire time, knowing all the same information, because I see so many people waking up. I see so many signs that a more reasonable, not a perfect, not a utopian, but a more reasonable world is actually in the middle of emerging. I know it doesn't always look like that, but what I would say to you is, if evil was winning, you wouldn't know. You might say, well, wait, that doesn't make any sense. If evil was winning, you wouldn't know, because if evil was winning, they would still be doing that frog boiling thing, but they're not anymore. They're becoming increasingly desperate and doing all kinds of radical moves that actually endanger everything they have. And so that tells me that the Malachians are losing their grip on power, and they're freaking out. And I don't think they understand what's going on, in part because of that Luciferian confusion I talked about earlier. So John Sand asks, what are your thoughts on Zecharia Sitchin and his 12th planet hypothesis? That's a great question. I was super duper into the Zecharia Sitchin Anunnaki theory for a long, long time when I first read about it. I first read about that back in like 2002 or 2003, something like that. I was super duper duper into it. I think there's definitely something to it. Namely, it does, this is weird, but I'm kind of the opinion, and I certainly can't prove it, but I'm of the opinion that humans are, much like Zecharia Sitchin says, that we're some kind of mixture of some form of hominid and then some form of what I call Homo interstellar, which is something very similar to us, probably so similar to us that we can at least breed and have the same way a horse and a donkey can breed and create a mule, right? But then that mule is sterile. Or a lion and a tiger can create a liger, which is half tiger, half lion, but it's sterile. I think we're at least that close genetically, and we may be close enough to have children that can breed. And there's like lots of different mythological pieces all over the world that point towards this hybridization between Homo interstellar, right, as they call them, our sort of genetic cousins, and hominids here on Earth in order to create like a new species. I also think that it might be how that Homo interstellar colonizes planets as they go to the planet. And I think that because of the way of morphogenesis, once a shape occurs in the universe as a viable functioning shape for a life form, I believe that it replicates throughout the universe because the universe is fractal in nature, and therefore something like us, right, with 2 hands, 2 feet, a head, right, just the general shape of humans. I think that this shape we have is actually probably pretty common among the more intelligent species, at least in our galaxy. And I think something very much like us came to the solar system in deep time, talking millions of years ago. I think it set up shop on Earth and Mars, and that possibly there was an additional planet that has since been destroyed, so-called planet Tiamat in the Sitchin information. It's basically where the asteroid belt is. If you look at the Valles Marineris or whatever it's called on Mars, that is definitely not a something that was formed by water erosion. Something hit Mars, and it's on the side that faces towards Jupiter, if I remember correctly. Something hit Mars with a lot of power. The guy I'm going to have for the electric universe theory on my channel, he's of the opinion that that was an electrical discharge of some sort that created that. I'm always leery of one-size-fits-all explanations for things, and the electric universe theory does have a little bit of that everything is explained by it feel to it. I do think that it's in a certain sense that's probably true, because like all physical phenomena would be electromagnetic in this theory, and so in a certain sense everything's explained by it. But I don't think that that means that everything is explained by like electrical discharges or whatever, rather than things that arise out of the complexity, such as humans. We don't exist because of, we exist because of that fundamental nature of physics, but we don't exist as like an electrical being in the sense of like we're not constantly walking around zapping everything or whatever. Do you see what I'm saying? In other words, like the electric universe theory can explain everything that causes the arising of life, perhaps the physical principles behind that. But I don't think that every time you see like a scar on a planet that it's because of an electrical discharge. That's just my personal opinion, but I'm also open to being wrong on that. And my friend that I hope to have on the channel is very, very much into that. As far as the 12th planet or Planet X or whatever, I mean, the Planet X thing is interesting, right? Right, the X. That's another thing where like, is all X steganography, does it always mean Lucifer? Is it always significant, or is it just like that's kind of like a handy letter for certain things? I think it's somewhere between the two. I don't know if I buy that there's a planet that comes by periodically into our solar system, Nibiru or whatever. I mean, people have been talking about Nibiru is going to come back in the next 6 months for like 20 years now or something, So I don't know what I think about that part of things. Do I think Anunnaki or some Homo sapiens interstellar exists, and that humans are like a hybrid of that human-like species that has interstellar space travel capability? Yes, that is my working hypothesis based on the work of a lot of people, in particular the work of Dr. Joseph Farrell, who I cannot recommend his work highly enough. He to me is like kind of like the gold standard of the truth movement. I mean, he doesn't get everything right, nobody does, but he has impeccable research, and he's always really good to differentiate between being out on the twig of speculation, as he likes to call it, or high octane speculation, versus facts. stuff that he can point to and cite a source, and he's very good at citing his sources. So Peter asks, if there are no other questions, can you talk about the vaults of the Templars they wanted to open in 2020 and then they did not? Is there any public plans around that? I'm not familiar of that, that there's any plan to open them again. I know some of the contents, and I absolutely cannot speak about that. That's one thing I'm forbidden from speaking about. It's not something bad. It's actually something really pretty interesting, but meaning it's not like some evil thing and I have to keep it secret because it's evil. No, not at all. It's actually quite cool. It's just we were told not to reveal that part. And I was super excited to see these vaults get opened, and then the damn pandemic hit. And I do wonder if the pandemic derailing it was part of the reason the pandemic rolled out, because the pandemic to this day feels like it was a little rushed despite how well planned it was. It was like so well planned that it didn't make sense how rough some of the edges were. Almost like someone had an almost perfect plan, but then they had to execute it too quickly for reasons unknown. There's a lot of stuff pointing towards that the elites are rushing for some reason, which kind of relates back to that prior question by John Sand about Zechariah Sitchin, the 12th planet. Something is causing the elites to panic. Something is causing them to step up their timeline. There's people who have said that, the Great Reset was actually meant to be completed in 2050, and they had to move it 20 years forward to 2030 because something came to their attention that caused them to panic and speed up their timeline before it was really in a good place. And that's why I said earlier, like, if evil was winning, how you could know is that you wouldn't know what was going on. You wouldn't have any interest in that evil was winning or not, because you wouldn't know that evil was winning. The way things were in the 80s, nobody knew about any of this stuff in the 80s. Maybe one person out of 100,000 or less, but nobody knew about what's going on right now. And that's because at that point in time, the Malachians had things extremely under wraps and were very, 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 very slowly boiling the frog. And then certain things happened that they didn't expect. And then other things happened that they didn't expect. And more people started to wake up. The internet came along. 9/11 woke a ton of people up, including me. Just at every turn, every time they've tried to do something, especially something big and splashy like 9/11, the result of it has been to wake more people up. And you see it all over the place. People are now starting to question all kinds of elite narratives, thanks to what happened with the pandemic. There's people like me who haven't been fooled by much for 20-something years because our awakening moment was 9/11. And then we started paying more attention. And so I see signs all around us that things are getting much, much better. But I do find it curious that we were going to open the vaults in 2020. And then, for people who don't know, there's a series of vaults that are hidden in the United States that actually Lewis and Clark went to check up on their way to the Oregon Trail or whatever, right? And so that was part of what they were doing in addition to surveying all the land Jefferson had just bought. That was sort of their secret mission. They were Templar, by the way. And if you want more information on this question Peter's alluding to here, watch my first couple of interviews, very old now, a couple years old, and I did not have near as much polish as I do now back then. But I interviewed Timothy Hogan, Grandmaster of the Templar Collegiate, and we talk about this and go into a lot more detail. All right, so John asked another question here. It could explain why we're so infatuated with gold and all the catastrophic events here on Earth, pole shifts every 3,600 years. Thanks, Ian. I appreciate all you do. Oh, thank you so much, John. Yeah, I mean, it could be that there's this planet X that's coming back in. I mean, I just wonder, like, how does it not cause planets to smash into each other all the time? Like, how has Earth managed to survive 1,000 passes of this thing without the moon smashing into the Earth or the Earth being pulled into the sun or Jupiter or whatever? That's the big one for me that makes the whole Planet X thing implausible, because unless this thing only comes by once every several 100,000 or millions of years, it would seem almost certain that during one of these passes, the Earth would have been moved out of that Goldilocks positioning and would have been destroyed. So that's just my take on that. You know, I could very easily be wrong, and if Anunnaki come down here, I'll be the first to admit, got that one wrong. I'm open to it. I'm not saying it's definitively not true. I don't. Let's put it this way: the Anunnaki and Planet X, infinitely more likely than flat Earth to me, which I give a rated a 0% chance. So let's see here. Peter Shamu says Dr. Joseph Farrell is awesome. I just paused a video with him and Dark Journalist to watch you. Oh, wow, that is the highest praise imaginable, although I guess that one is paused and here you get to live chat. All right, but thank you for that. Ian, random guy, which person is really at the top? I mean, top. Well, I mean, that's the $64 quadrillion question, isn't it? I've answered this before on this channel. It seems to be the head of the Massimo clan, and that's speculative. I don't know. They're very not friendly. That has been made pretty clear to me. Someone posted in my comments recently that they knew who it was, and that it was someone who was like a Jesuit and involved in a number of secret societies, and they did like insanely powerful black magic and could basically perform miracles. Well, you know, miracles is subjective, but more like they could have physical reality warp around them because it's possible. I do believe that it's a magician or a priest at the tippy top that directly interfaces with Moloch and, you know, as a channel for Moloch onto this planet, and that's who rules. I mean, at the end of the day, who rules? Moloch rules. But not for much longer. TikTok, Moloch, you got less than 2 years now. So yeah, so I'm going to just wait maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. Any more questions out there? Anyone want to get a shout out, say hi? Just throw up a comment there in the comment section. If not, I think I'm going to wind this puppy down. I thought I'd get a few more questions, and I actually padded more of the show time this week to answer more questions. And of course, when I do that, there's less questions. All right, well, thank you so much, everybody, for showing up. If anyone wants to, you know, put a shout out down there or put their name down there, I can shout you out. If not, I'm going to start wrapping up. I just want to remind everyone again, if you enjoy the content on the channel, just hit like and subscribe, and especially share to people that you know that might be interested in the content on this channel. If you, oh, and there's another question, so I'll answer that. If you're interested in learning angelic magic, you can sign up for my class. I am closing that down this Friday because it launches on May 4th. And so, yeah, and also if you're looking for some guidance in your life at this time during this critical changeover years, I do Vedic astrology charts. So if you're under 30, or I mean under 40, excuse me, natal chart is still very much in effect. And if you're over 40, one of the unique things that the Navamsa chart or the Vedic astrology has is the Navamsa chart for your post 40 years. And like for me, my karma, someone asked about karma earlier, my karma for my first 40 years of life was a shit sandwich. And my karma for my second 40, or well, 40 and beyond, I plan to live much, much older than 80, is really spectacular and great. And it's really starting to unfold in that way. And so many things I see in my second half of life chart are really coming to fruition. It's quite humbling and amazing, and this channel is part of it, and this incredible community. And thank you all for being here. Okay, so a bunch more questions suddenly pop up here. So Peter says, what's my take on UFO disclosure? I think they're setting up a fake alien invasion. I don't think they have I don't think they have any intent of really revealing. However, once the Luciferians run the table, I think they'll go, oh, by the way, we've been interacting with other species for decades or centuries or whatever, and let's set up some trade with other civilizations. Because I do think that that's occurring. I do think that some degree of trade, mostly literal, ironically, human trafficking, I think is probably the main thing we trade, or DNA off the planet, because, of course, life forms are the rarest thing in the universe. So, you know, we care about gold and metal and whatever, but intelligent spacefaring creatures would probably be most interested in life forms and DNA. That would be my guess. Hope we get to know the name of the freak who is at the top. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, unless someone has some way of dealing with that person, it seems somewhat not helpful. Giddy Up Mofo says, hi guys. Hey, Giddy Up Mofo, how you doing? Random Guy says, thanks, buy-in. Thank you, Random Guy, for showing up. I see a great question coming up here in a second. Thanks a lot. I see your friend request on Facebook. If you want, I can send you some interesting books and info on sacred sites in Hungary that the Pauline order is guarding. Oh, I am very interested in that, Peter. Yes, that would be great. All right. So Giddy Up Mofo asks a great question. Is Bitcoin a Trojan horse? Yes. Yes, it is. I believe that it is a Trojan horse from the get-go. I believe that it has always been a honeypot. I've thought that since I first discovered Bitcoin, which I actually found Bitcoin when it was about 25 cents a coin. And if my voice is getting a little shaky, it's because I didn't buy any. I found Bitcoin in like 2011. I actually had the idea for Bitcoin, sort of, right? Not like the awesome blockchain ledger, but I had a sudden desire around 2011 or whenever it was that I wanted to make something that was in the video or in the role-playing game Shadowrun come to life, which were these little cred sticks, these anonymous credit sticks that were basically like a USB drive. You just plug it in and you can do a transaction, and it was a secure encrypted digital currency. And I was like, hey, we have USBs now. We should make that real. We should make the Shadowrun currency real. And I got super hyped about it. And I was like, man, I need to find a programmer and we'll get on this. And I went home and I did some research and I found Bitcoin, which, like I said, was trading for like a quarter or something at the time. If I had put like $5 or $10 in, I wouldn't have this channel either, because I would have died from hookers and cocaine, because I was not healed at that time, and it would have becoming an instant millionaire back then would have gone very poorly for me. But so I found Bitcoin and was aware of it for a long, long time. I did some blog posts on it years ago, and I did buy a little at one point, and I have since sold it. But I think it's a Trojan horse honeypot. I think it's designed to suck people into that instead of gold and actually the real reserve currency, which I believe will be XRP. And I think that it's going to soar probably. It's probably going to go up to 100, 150,000 or something like that. And then it's just going to tank overnight. They know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. DHS knows. I meant to do this whole thing. I'll do it now. I'm so glad you asked this question. Unfortunately, a lot of people have left. Check this out, folks. Look at what's been happening more and more and more. I meant to show this earlier in the main part of the show, so I'm so glad that you asked this, because, is that going to work? No. So not now. So weird. This share function on this thing is just such hot garbage. It's my one real complaint about StreamYard. I don't know. I guess I can do it this way, maybe. Let's see. So, let's see if I do it this way. Okay, so I'm going to make this big. And then look, a dormant address containing 1,000 Bitcoin or 27 million has been activated after 12 years. And then, look, but wait, there's more. A dormant address containing 6,000 Bitcoin or $178 million has been activated after 9.3 years. A dormant address containing 1,128 Bitcoin has just been activated after 10.5 years. There's also one about, there's also one where it was from the Satoshi era, so the most ancient of Bitcoins. And the only thing that makes sense is all these ultra ancient addresses just suddenly firing up. Why would you fire up now at 27K and not at 64, 65,000? You don't even dust that address off at 40, 50K, but suddenly you do at 37K, right in the middle of a banking crisis, right in the middle of a geopolitical dislocation, right in the middle of de-dollarization. Why? Who? So either billionaires or trillionaires who think they can influence things, or more likely government entities, are behind the sudden surge in, not 7 to 12-year-old Bitcoin wallets. I mean, again, I can't find it right now, but within the past 2 weeks, a Satoshi era Bitcoin wallet popped up. And so that was like, Bitcoin was like 3 cents a Bitcoin, or 1 penny, or less than a penny, 1,000th of a penny, something like that. So someone's really sitting on 1 to 6,000 Bitcoin, and they don't try and sell before now, and they decide to sell right now at a time which is absolutely insane for a whole host of reasons to sell, and that there's lots of weird stuff going on in the financial world and geopolitically. No. There's some government agency, or at least some organized crime, which could include the black nobility families we talk about all the time, that are behind those wallets that are being activated, and they're planning to dump. Almost certainly planning to dump and crater it. And so I think they're going to reveal who Satoshi Nakamoto is, or who they are, because I actually think it's more than one person, and they're probably going to just tank Bitcoin. I mean, I don't know that for sure. They may let Bitcoin run up to the moon first to get the max amount of people sucked in for the rug pull. But what they really don't want is people going into gold and silver, or, if I'm right, and I believe I am, or XRP and XOM and these other ISO 222 coins. That's what they do not want. So Peter says, clearly they're setting up a false narrative, but real disclosure must be underway too. Oh, talking about the UFOs. Yeah, I mean, probably the luciferians want to disclose. They certainly want to disclose the high tech, and have been trying to for decades, and the Moluccans have been blocking that. So Giddy Up Mofo says, nice, I felt that way. CIA. Actually, the CIA might be owning these Bitcoin wallet addresses, but I believe the NSA is behind Bitcoin. But the actual programmers are real people. Some people think it's Samsung, Toshiba, I forget what the Naka part is, and then Motorola, that it's 4 Japanese companies, or Satoshi Nakamoto. That's a theory that I think has legs. But I've heard that it's actual individuals, and that supposedly Department of Homeland Security approached these people. And the fact the government keeps not mentioning this is very weird and creepy. So Peter says, Bitcoin might be a Trojan horse, but blockchain technology itself, with its transparency, is clearly Luciferian stuff, isn't it? Absolutely. There's less trackable privacy coins like Monero or Zcash. Yeah, or Pirate Chain is another one that's the most secure. Monero probably has or most private. Monero probably has the biggest network. But yeah, so those are real privacy coins. But I actually think the ultimate move is Bitcoin. Everyone thinks is anonymous, which chain analysis has shown it's absolutely not anonymous. But Ripple looks like it's like the banker coin. That's what everyone thinks. But they're Trojan horsing in to destroy the central banking system, whereas Bitcoin is a Trojan horse to suck in people into the wrong digital asset. So things are kind of like, the reverse of what they appear at first blush in both places. So Peter said, I don't actually think Bitcoin will fall in value the way it's made. It seems to always keep its value and eventually hit like $10 million even. Yeah, I mean, it could be that I'm dead wrong about Bitcoin and it just soars forever. I'm not invested in it, and I won't put money in it other than to move money around. I won't touch it. That's just my personal opinion. It also has underage pornography embedded in the blockchain at this point. So there's been a theory at different points that if you were found holding blockchain, that they would say that you had illegal pornography because it's embedded in the blockchain, some of these images and so forth. There's all sorts of crazy stuff at this point embedded in the Bitcoin blockchain. So yeah, I'm not sure. Gold is real, but Bitcoin is also real, and in many ways better than gold. Yeah, I mean, again, I think XRP is just infinitely better form for moving value around. Bitcoin might work as digital gold and preserve value, but I don't know. Also, like the minute that quantum computing comes out, and it's out, they can run Shor's algorithm. They can cut right through the crypto around Bitcoin. I mean, that's probably also true of most of the ledgers that are out there, including XRP, but Bitcoin is particularly primitive as far as blockchains go, so it'd be very vulnerable and easy to hack and destroy. And just this whole idea that any form of digital currency, including the ones that I like, are somehow immune to regulation and like they're just so perfect and a magic bullet. Like, I don't think so. That doesn't mean they're not useful or not to lean into or take advantage of this wealth transfer, all that stuff. You should. I just don't think that, I think people need to understand that if you have gold or silver in hand, that is much better, in my opinion anyways, than having Bitcoin. I mean, it's just, 5,000 years of history behind it. It's the one thing I'm absolutely certain of. Crypto, like, it's a bit foggier, Luciferian confusion. When will Ripple versus SEC be settled, in my opinion? No later than the end of June, and as soon as this week, the end of this week. There's certain things that point towards that. It's actually a lot of stuff that points towards, and that brings us full circle to this talk. There's a lot of stuff that points towards it might be the day of the lunar eclipse is when she comes out. I forget, something like the Daubert motion or something of 60 days after the Daubert motion is May 6th, which is also the lunar eclipse, which is kind of wild. Hey, new commenter here. Susie Gemini, did you know that Disney is releasing Elementals 2? Characters are called Ripple and Lumens. Hint, hint, predictive, yes, XRP, XOM. Wow, I did not know that. Whoa, that's crazy. They just had a thing on the Masked Singer that had XRP with an insane, like, between 35,000 and close to 100,000 value on a computer monitor in the background. It also had maybe Zcash, which the other person remembered. It had something else in there that I was kind of like, what? That also had a very high number, but I think that one then crashes in the video. Fed strategically sold 20% of their Bitcoins holding recently from seizures from a hacker, but still have 120K Bitcoin minimum. They'll dump it for liquidity, but not before their Wall Street cronies sell first. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. I mean, they see so many Bitcoin from the Silk Road, so, and from other things. What about the eclipse in 2024? The X finished across America. That's really interesting because it does straight up make an X. I'd be curious of where the actual center point of the X is. It would probably be somewhere like in Texas or New Orleans or something. Yeah, the eclipse in 2024 is going to be massive. And I think the last eclipse led to Trump's downfall, and this eclipse may lead to his, resurrecting his political career like a phoenix, and to put more encoded stuff from a lot of the Ripple stuff, the phoenix. But I think, I think Trump is going to win in 2024, and that he'll actually get the presidency this time around, and that is planned by the Luciferian folks. All right. So, and space mining, when we mine 10,000 tons of gold in space, it'll be less scarce. Bitcoin is 200 million tops, not more, not arguing here, just pointing out. Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great point. And the mining of gold in space was something the Malakians wanted to do, and they were actually starting to price that in and talk about it. And all of a sudden, they kind of backed away from mining the asteroid belt, and then they came back to it, but it was like very primitive, using rockets to like lasso a asteroid and bring it back, and just like kind of like really clunky technology, when we all know, or at least I know, they have anti-gravity and free energy. It may very well be, and I've wondered this, it may very well be that the Luciferians are already actively mining the asteroid belt and have been for 20, 30, 40 years, which would be part of what explains why they're turning the corner on the Malakians, is because they now have a revenue stream that the Malakians have no control over. And it might also allow for things like one-to-one Ripple backed by gold, because they went and mined an asteroid just like you're describing. It's possible. I don't know. We'll see what happens. San Antonio, yes. Well, I guess I better buy my paste picante sauce now. I don't want to be stuck with salsa from New York City. I don't know if y'all remember those amazing paste picante sauce commercials from the 90s. Some of my favorites ever. Giddy Up says digital assets are easily controlled when you control the internet. Yep, definitely. And 4D printing, when we get Star Trek and can materialize materials, we can just materialize gold. Also, with the raising consciousness, transmutation of lead will be easy. Yeah, it could be. But your quantum computation is a real threat to Bitcoin. Yeah, and we already know it exists. So it's easy like that. Good, I'm glad. Space mining, really? Yeah, well, that's, I mean, like, this isn't, I mean, there's actually literally companies that are traded in the Luxembourg Stock Exchange for space mining that the way some of those papers describe it, I mean, it's private equity, so you have to be a accredited investor or whatever. But yeah, no, I think there's space mining already. They've had plans to do it for decades. So perhaps you're not aware of that. There's, you know, multiple space programs. That there's the solid rocket fuel nonsense fake space program, and then there's the electrogravitics anti-gravity space programs, which are definitely a thing, at least in my opinion. I'm about as sure of that as I am of anything that we can, you know, not know with firsthand evidence. There's just a lot of stuff pointing to it. And I would say look up the 2015 Secret Space Program conference that had Dr. Joseph Farrell, and especially, what is that gentleman's name? Michael Schratt. If you watch that guy's presentation and you don't come away with near certainty that there's a secret space program with electrogravitics, etc., then you are a hard sell, sir or madam. So yeah, they absolutely have plans to mine the asteroid belt. The only question is, in my mind anyway, is are they already doing it? All right, Psyche 16 is a huge gold and platinum asteroid just a bit after Mars, I think. Yeah, I've heard this sort of thing. Also, you don't know how much gold is on Earth. There could be a lot. Yeah, very true. There's that whole Yashimoto's gold or whatever it is. And I am going to actually have to wrap up now, folks. But there is that huge treasure hoard of gold that the Japanese had where they went in and they took all the Chinese gold and the imperial Japanese gold, and then they hid it in like the Philippines or whatever. And JFK was involved, and there's all kinds of weird stuff. So there are rumors that there's, you know, maybe 20,000 more tons of gold. There's also, I've read that there's more gold in the Hindu temples than there is in all central banks combined, which if there's a revaluation of gold, which seems a certainty, India would instantly become the wealthiest country on earth by a significant margin if indeed everything is sort of centers around gold. I don't know whether the Hindu temples would trot that gold out or not, but the Indian people alone have reserves that are bigger than most central banks combined. They have tons of gold and silver. So Peter said Schratt is good, lots of crash retrieval. Yeah. Susie says, thank you. I watched from the beginning. I've been a sub since you had like 400. Congrats. Great channel. Oh, thank you, Susie. Gemini, an OG person. Like, you found me before Sam Tripoli. So I guess that's BST, before Sam Tripoli era of this channel, because this channel really blew up thanks to Sam Tripoli. A lot of gold and silver on Earth is underwater. Spain raided the New World, and a lot of the galleons sunk. Anunnaki need to send us scuba tanks, LOL. Yeah, that's funny. I love when you read about people finding treasure and then they're dumb enough to talk about it publicly. If I ever found a lot of treasure, there might be hints of that I was dressed like a pirate all of a sudden and moving into a mansion, but I would definitely not tell any government that I had found pirate treasure or treasure of any kind. And I think that people who do tell governments that they found whatever ancient Incan gold or whatever are the biggest of morons. I really hope that when you read stories about, like, especially in the UK, it happens all the time, people find a big treasure hoard, and then the government's like, oh, well, thank you very much, and we'll be giving you 1/1000th of the actual value of this treasure hoard. It's a hoard, and so therefore it's the crowns or whatever nonsense. Or like when people go and they're like, hey, I retrieved this Spanish galleon. And then Cuba says, well, actually, that's our Spanish galleon. And then Spain goes, no, actually, that's our Spanish galleon. And then the guy's like, hey, I spent $10 million in trying to get this gold up. You guys, is anyone going to reimburse me? No, but we will be taking all of your gold, sir. Also, gold that is not mined yet. We could just find a lot. Yeah, there's that rumor, and the African country has all that gold. It's bullshit. Susie gives me a smiley face. Thank you, Susie. All right, folks, I got to wrap up. Thank you again, Ian. Nice chat. We must let you wrap it up. Yeah. Well, no, it's okay. I'm glad that we had some good stuff in there, and I got to. I forgot about that piece about the Bitcoin wallets resurrecting after being dormant for over a decade. That was something I meant to share at the beginning, so I'm glad that things extended. So much love to everyone. If you haven't already, just smash that like button, subscribe. You can just ignore it if you want, or if you're really interested, hit that bell, and then you can get all the updates. A lot of really great content is coming up very, very soon, including, oh gosh, I wish I could tell you guys. I gotta get it in the can first, or maybe even upload it before I'm going to say it. But I am going to interview this week the widow of someone who was pretty deep in and involved in the wacky side of the security state, the really weird side. And this woman is who's widowed. Her husband was suicided for the stuff he was saying. And let me tell you, he was saying some crazy stuff. And so that's going to be awesome. Oh, and P. Scott says, love from Ireland. Thanks, Ian. Great channel. Oh, thank you so much, P. Scott. I think I've seen you before. John Sands says, thanks, Ian. Much love. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. And we'll catch you next time. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.